have with us this morning Mr. Festus Okoye, who is the National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee at INEC. We also have with us Barrister Eziobika Chukwudi, who is the National Legal Advisor of IPAC. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Sunrise City this morning.
Good morning.
Well, just yesterday, a court gave an interlocutory injunction saying that 33 parties should not be deregistered. INEC has since reacted to that. I don't know if that is the official reaction from INEC, saying that it amounts to the judgment or the injunction amounts to trying to resurrect the dead because the act has already been done. So it doesn't really hold any water. What precisely did the parties go to court for? And does the reaction of INEC, conform with what the court is saying?
Yes, if truly that is the response from the Independent National Electoral Commission, then such a reaction is indeed very unfortunate because the parties who are beneficiaries of this order have been in court even before the deregistration. This matter had been in court since last year, and you remember on the 23rd of January, the court sat and heard the motion for the interlocutory injunction as moved by counsel.
But it wasn't granted until yesterday.
Yeah, it wasn't granted. The court then reserved ruling for 17th. So in between the time the court reserved ruling and 17th, which was yesterday, INEC went ahead to deregister 74 political parties. So that is very unfortunate for the Commission. It's such a very reckless and irresponsible action by INEC.
You say it is reckless. I mean, Mr. Okoye can respond to that, but just before he does, some people will say, are you questioning the powers of INEC to deregister political parties as enshrined in the Constitution? Yes,
if you watched the INEC chairman when he made the pronouncement on television, you will recall that he hanged his decision on Section 225A, which is the fourth alteration to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended. He hanged his decision on that. So he observed it more in breach. Okay, if you take a closer look at that Section 225A, it stipulates clearly that local council elections must be concluded. There is a provision there for local council elections. So, but INEC said that they don't have powers to conduct elections in the 36 states of the Federation, but only the FCT. That is an aberration, and that is very unfortunate to come from the aberration. Yeah, INEC cannot state that they don't have, that the 36 states of the Federation, the local government elections in 36 states of the Federation wouldn't be conducted before they can go ahead to deregister. And it's very clear. Elections must be conducted in all the local governments of the Federation.
Aren't parties hanging on to, clauses that they know might never happen in perpetuity? Because we know that the tradition right now in many states is to have caretaker committees. And while they are not fighting for local council elections, because we have not heard any party making noise that local council elections haven't held in any state, or in any local council, in any local council so far, we haven't had any party protesting against that, as stipulated in the Constitution. Yet, when INEC goes ahead to deregister them for a number of reasons, we now hear that, local council elections have not been conducted, so you do not have the powers to deregister us. Are the parties being fair?
As a matter of fact, as we speak today, out of 36 states of the Federation, local government elections have only been conducted in about 6 states. Mm-hmm. So we have about 30.
Yeah, the thing I'm saying is, we haven't heard any protest from political parties so far about that.
No, there are protests all over the states. We have protests. All our structures across the states are protesting. Some of them have even gone to court to challenge the CX for not conducting elections. Because what we have all over the place, you have caretaker committees, which is unconstitutional and unknown to law.
Okay.
So there is clamor for that, and at the various state levels, they are working towards that to ensure that we have local government elections.
Let me take Mr. Festus Okoye. I want you to first of all confirm that that's INEC stance, saying that the interlocutory injunction amounts to trying to resurrect the dead. Is that how really INEC views the decision of the court?
Well, but there has not been any official reaction from the Independent National Electoral Commission relating to the court order of yesterday. This is because, one, we have not received a copy of the court order. We have not been served with a copy of the court order. We don't even know the context in which the court order was made. So until we receive officially that particular court order, the Independent National Electoral Commission could not have officially reacted to it. But having said that, let me quickly say this, that if you read Section 225A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, you will see that there are different levels. One, there is the provision that says that the Independent National Electoral Commission can deregister a political party for failure to conform to the requirements for its registration. In other words, if a political party that was obligated to have an office in the Federal Capital Territory ceases to have an office in the Federal Capital Territory, the Independent National Electoral Commission can deregister it. The political parties that went to court did not go to court on the basis of this. And some of the political parties were deregistered on the basis of failure to meet this particular requirement. That is one. Secondly, these political parties that went to court are saying that INEC could not have deregistered them because there has not been conclusive and democratic presidential and governorship and National Assembly elections in Nigeria. That's what they're saying.
Democratic?
They use the word conclusive and democratic elections.
What does that mean?
You ask them. That was their word. That was the exact thing that was in their writ. And that the presidential and governorship elections conducted in during the 2019 elections were characterized by irregularities. And they could have won seats if there had not been irregularities in these elections. So their contention is that we must do a futuristic projection of elections to enable them win future elections before we can exercise our power to deregister them. But what the Constitution says is that the Commission shall have power to deregister political parties for failure to win. In other words, the Constitution is only talking about elections that have already been conducted, not future elections that have not been conducted.
But let me get this straight.
Yes.
You were aware of the matter in court?
Well, you know, this whole issue about the matter they filed in court, yes, we are still looking into it because it was only on Friday, on the 14th, that the 33 political parties served the commission with a motion on notice asking the court to reverse their deregistration. And it was on the basis of that legal practitioners from the Independent National Electoral Commission went to court only to find that there had already been existing a matter in court. And the court said the commission had been served. But I want to tell you that from the day they claimed they filed the matter until Friday, when we are served with a motion on notice saying that the court should reverse their deregistration, that most of the lawyers in the commission were not aware that there was any matter in that regard pending in court.
The reason I bring that to your notice is because I think as part of the consequences, one of the reasons why the judge gave this injunction is because, yes, you did not make a representation in court.
That was what I read from the newspapers and have from the radio and television.
Oh.
I have not seen the record of proceedings, and I've not seen a copy of the court order.
Yeah, but you seem to be confirming that now by saying that you were not aware of the matter until Friday.
Yes. But no, that's the
How
point.
Is that possible?
That's the point I'm making. What I read from the newspapers was that her lordship said that she has on record the fact that the commission was served with some of the processes and that there was no representation from the commission. That was what I read from the newspapers. But in relation to what really happened, whether we were actually served, who received and who did not receive, I don't have information relating to that as of now.
Well, do you want to quickly respond to that?
You see, this confirms the incompetence that we have always told Nigerians that INEC is bedeviled with. The Independent National Electoral Commission under Mahmoud Yakubu has not really lived up to expectation. Nigerians are highly disappointed in INEC. As a matter of fact, Nigerians have lost hope in INEC.
Have you looked
in conducting elections?
Sorry to interrupt you, because the matter at hand is not about INEC's ability to conduct elections or not. The matter at hand is about the deregistration of political parties.
Yes,
have you taken a look at the polls that a number of media houses have conducted, you know, on the deregistration of political parties? Because it would seem that there is overwhelming support for INEC on this particular matter, for deregistering political parties. A number of people believe that the amount of political parties we have on our ballot papers is unwieldy, and it's not tidy, and a lot of the political parties do not pull their weight. So it is only fair that we have a tidy sum, those who are truly active, and do what is right by the people of Nigeria. How do you respond to that?
On the contrary, as I earlier mentioned, the incompetence on INEC is what is playing out across the Federation.
How is it the incompetence of INEC?
Mahmoud Yakubu is grossly incompetent. I will give you reasons. You see, all these issues that have been mentioned, if you go deep down, a National Commissioner of INEC is sitting here right in the studio and telling Nigerians that the Commission is not aware of the court processes that have been served the Commission since last year, since middle of last year till date.
Yeah,
no, it's not dodging the issue.
You're dodging the issues, Barrister Chukwudi. I'm asking you very specifically about the reaction of Nigerians to the deregistration of those political parties. So far, so good. There seems to be overwhelming support for
that
INEC
is not true.
On this particular matter.
That is not true. If INEC, yes, of course, we are not saying that INEC doesn't have powers to deregister. Yes. But if you want to deregister political parties, you must comply.
So I'm asking you, based on the perception of Nigerians on a number of political parties that seem to just be political parties in name. I mean, I do not know if you're vouching for all of your members or all the 70-something parties plus that were deregistered. I don't know if you can vouch for them, but amongst them, a number of them are briefcase parties. Isn't that correct?
That is a very unfortunate statement for you to make. If you know the efforts put in by these political parties across the Federation to ensure that they have structures, these political parties are not funded by INEC. These people, they stake their resources to those parties, and they create structures both at the national, state, and local government levels, even down to the ward levels. So if you say that they are briefcase platforms, so that is very unfortunate statement for you to make here in the studio. That is very wrong, and it's unacceptable. IPAC as a council has responsibility to its members, and we are here for the 74 registered political parties.
So you can vouch that all of the parties, all the 74 political parties, all of them have structures. All of them have offices in the Federal Capital Territory.
Yes, of course.
All of them have offices in the states, and all of them have, you know, offices at the local level. Is that what you're saying?
The law clearly says that they should have offices in the FCT, and all members of the council have offices here in the FCT. So there is no party that doesn't have an office here in the FCT.
Okay, let's go to Lagos now and take questions from my colleagues. Gentlemen.
Well, we actually do have a guest here. Ezekiel Nyaito here with us. Good morning. Thank you for coming in today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We haven't seen how all of this is panning out.
Yeah.
Well, yes, the court, by the way, is just asking INEC to halt the deregistration of political parties until the substantive matter is looked into. Yeah. So, but at the moment, is this what you were hoping was going to happen all along?
I feel really saddened when I see what's going on, having been a national party chairman. And I'm really concerned about our electoral processes, knowing that that's what gives us who should be the leader or the leader of this country. Without parties, you can't have a president. And without INEC, you can't have a process. And the relationship between INEC and the parties is making me very uncomfortable. Now, I'll tell you 1, 2, 3 things. Number one is that there are extremely serious small parties who are thinking of alternative governance structures or systems. The first time I attended an IPAC meeting as a chairman was about when they were to do an election. I decided to vie for the vice chairmanship of that body. And people really didn't think I'll have more than one vote, because that was the first time. There were 29 political parties that time. And they made a mistake, I would say, of giving me a chance to speak. And I say, gentlemen, every political party is government, either in action or in waiting. I don't like the way we are structured as parties. We are structured as if we are just that portfolio that waits for election time. If you are government, the question is, what is your ideology? What is your alternate to the policies? How are you networking? How are you thinking? Are you seeing yourself as government?
All right. We'll come back to this in just a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. So go ahead. You were making a point.
At the end, when election was conducted, I lost by 1 vote. I had 14. Because people now say...
Like Liverpool and Man City, they lost title by 1 point.
By 1 point, you know.
Champions.
I agree. But you see, everybody left the man that won and congratulated me. It's like, this is a new thinking. This makes sense. What am I trying to say? Today, the public is just sick and tired of what they call political parties, because what they do. In 2019... yes, in the last election, we were 45 candidates. Out of the 45, 41 stepped down to endorse. We were only 4 on the ballot. So why do we have 91 people on the party, whereas there are just 1, 2, 3?
So what do you, because look, the courts will do what they have to do based on the issues before them, based on the law.
Yes.
And the law allows all those political parties to exist. And the INEC will set guidelines upon which they can exist. If they don't meet, they do whatever. But what do we do to streamline and ensure we have a healthy number?
Number 1 is very simple. I've done an open letter to the chairman of INEC. We cannot have 91 political parties on the ballot. We cannot. Maximum we can have is about 20. Number 2, you don't need to deregister any party. All you need is to have what you call something like midterm elections, which is what introduces us to electronic voting. Every party, you must register your members. To start with, you cannot vote without a PVC. It means that there's a possibility of registration.
If you have midterm elections,
no,
political parties,
I'll tell you what.
Streamline?
I'll tell you how it is. Every party, you must register your membership in 3 categories. Number 1, active with PVC, okay, in the paid dues. They have PVC, they pay dues. They have PVC, they don't pay dues. They don't have PVC, which is where you have like the junior members, like the school children, they can be party members. No PVC. PVC without dues, PVC with dues. Now, these people that have PVC with dues are called the active members. All you need to do is INEC set a day, probably 1 year to election, and say, we are going to have every party member. It costs INEC nothing, absolutely nothing. We're going to do a registration. They open the portal. Every party member with PVC, which the INEC already has the back end of. You cannot vote from 2 parties. They vote. The top 20 parties will be on the ballot. Yeah, because it's not just 1 or 2 or 3.
If I
the top 20, yes.
When you say those with PVC with dues, active members, look, these things are not rocket science. Yeah. Politicians can bankroll millions of people.
That is what. It does 2 things. Number 1, it encourages politicians to go and scout for them. Number 2,
doesn't that defeat the purpose?
No, it doesn't. No,
so how do you
this is populating the party. You want to populate. You want every party to run and get membership. This is what should be the priority of INEC. How we can get parties to be active on ground. Number 2. Because you want to vote.
What will be the threshold of the membership?
No.
What figures are you?
You're supposed to get as much as possible.
So what's the cutoff point for the key parties? How many parties should go for the main elections?
That's what I'm saying. On that day of voting, number 2, because active members will vote, parties encourage people to pay their dues. That is how parties operate, based on the dues that they have. When you do that voting, everybody will see the top 20.
Top 20 in terms of what?
Top 20 in terms of numbers is a vote. Is a vote.
Who are they voting for?
Sorry?
Who are they voting for?
They are voting for their party to be on the ballot. We want the party to be on the ballot for these general elections. So every party, go and look for your members, make sure that they vote with their PVCs. We now see the top 20 parties. Now, if your party did not qualify, it means you now go and start looking for members for the next election. So you are not deregistered. It just means you will not be on the ballot. So now that encourages you to go back and now really scout for members.
So what if you still have a very high number of parties that qualify?
No, 20, top 20.
Top 20.
Top 20, that's a cutoff. No, that will be on the ballot.
You know, there will definitely be ties. But I'm just thinking also that...
Yeah, even if there are ties, we're talking of top 20.
Right. So this is a time we're trying to discourage money politics.
Yeah.
Because it appears as though money will play a huge role in this process. Because you say PVC with dues.
No, every party member is expected to pay his dues.
No, you're saying there will be three categories. There will be the ones that pay dues.
Yes,
those are the ones that would participate in this midterm that you talk about.
So that encourages, if, for instance, I want to run for an office, and I want my party to be involved at the top 20. What I do is I go grassroots mobilization.
But you have to ensure they pay their dues.
That is the primary responsibility of parties.
But you have to ensure they pay their dues.
And you have to, it's the primary responsibility of
parties. So money has to be provided for them to pay their dues.
You can't bother yourself with that.
No. If they don't pay their dues, then they can't vote for your party.
You go to school, you pay school fees.
No, what I'm trying to say is at the time we're trying to discourage money politics.
No, you can't. You can't.
We can't discourage money politics.
No, you've got to pay school. There are certain things that you cannot stop. Every party man should pay his dues. Must.
Chamberlain raised the question the other time.
So that should not be a prerequisite to the party now being on the ballot.
No. You want to, you see, you guys really need to understand how party is structured. Now you want to have strong parties. What makes a strong party is that they're able to have internally generated revenue. It's like every country drives for IGR. Every country drives for. Every party should drive for one, membership and active membership. That is their duty. That's the obligation.
But
that's their duty.
Which party in this rich democracy relies strictly on the dues to run elections? Which party?
No. Dues to run a party is different from dues to run election.
Yeah, so
when you have membership, okay? Now, when you want to run an election, there are two sets of dues. Number one is you as a candidate. You have friends, you have well-wishers, you have believers in you. They contribute to your fund. You do fundraising. Secondly, your party also comes in to provide certain basic infrastructure for you to run on. Such as publicity, such as mobilization.
That's running elections.
Yes, that's running elections. That's saying it's two sides. From you as a candidate and from your party giving you a structural support.
Okay.
This will only work if INEC is able to have a relationship with the parties that is cordial. What we are seeing right now is not cordial.
Okay.
Everybody, and we are sick and tired. But we cannot afford the luxury of deregistering parties because there are certain parties, they may not win election today.
Why do they need to go and register in the first place when they can't win elections?
No, you run as a party to establish ideology and to run an election. You have certain parties like the Green parties, of small parties, they have ideologies that they operate on.
Some of them have been on for about 20 years.
Yes.
They've never won one seat
that's
at
because
the ward level.
I'll tell you why. Guy, you know that there's never been election at state level. You know that.
How do you mean?
You know that. There's never been. Tell me one state that has an election where PDP, APC state, PDP cannot get one seat.
What is that
PDP
to say
state,
there hasn't
APC
been...
cannot get one seat. No, guy, think about it.
No, is that to say, you said there
state
hasn't
elections,
been election.
Yes, state elections are names written. They are never elections.
But not for the last 20 years.
For the last 20 years.
No.
I'll tell you this.
There have been cases, even in Lagos.
I'll tell you this. I mean, this is what every Nigerian listening to me, they know. Go to Sokoto State. If PDP wins election, every member in the House of Assembly... If
you're talking about recent history, not that it hasn't happened before.
Okay. Past 10 years. It's happened before because in INEC, there was a day that there was one of the dispensations that out of the 31 local governments, one was
Does that mean that there's no election? If the party is the most popular party in the state and they win election, does it mean that the other parties...
Doesn't it bother you that a state that has 3 senators from a party, it so happens that another party is the governor and the 3 senators cannot get 1 councillor.
So who do you blame for that? When it is very easy for a politician who won an election on one platform to cross carpet.
Thank you.
So very easily.
INEC should be disembundled. What's the word?
Unbundled?
Unbundled to face issues of party and elections. INEC should take over the responsibility of conducting state elections.
No. How does a politician crossing from one party into another become the function of INEC?
We all know. No. I don't blame INEC for all those things. I just believe that the law has already taken care of that. Mine is, can we sit down and give INEC a workable alternative such that they don't get into this mess of the registering parties, and at the same time they don't have 200 paper whatever on the ballot.
You need to check the cases of Anambra and Kano, because those states have other political party members in the state houses of assembly. So those are recent cases.
And local governments.
So it's a different scenario entirely if they've done local government elections. But for state assemblies, they exist. So
I'm sure my time is up, and Chamberlain, but the fact is this: we must look at local government elections and change it, because every Nigerian knows that it's absolute rubbish for now. And when that is done, small parties stand a chance of winning at least councillor.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. Back to you, Abuja. Marpa.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We still have with us Mr. Festus Okoye. You have heard there, Architect Nyai talk. Do you agree with a number of things that he said?
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission is a creation of the Constitution and a creation of the law. In terms of the type of threshold he's talking about, the Commission can only engage in such a venture if the Constitution is altered and if the law is amended to give the Independent National Electoral Commission the power to do such a thing. Now, secondly, the power of the Independent National Electoral Commission to register political parties is clearly documented and clearly delineated in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And any political party that meets that constitutional threshold and the threshold in the Electoral Act will definitely be registered. But having said that, let me just say a few things. The first is that, one, if you look at the writ filed by these 33 political parties, you will find out that 2 of the political parties on their writ, of the 33, 2 of the political parties were not deregistered. That is the Labour Party and the African Democratic Party. They were not deregistered. Secondly, the political parties already knew that they had been deregistered, and they knew that the act of their deregistration had been concluded, and that was why on the 14th day of February they filed a motion before the same court seeking the order of the court to reverse their deregistration. And it was on the basis of that that the court said, no, I will not reverse the registration of the political parties. I will rather grant accelerated hearing so that this matter can be concluded expeditiously, and all the political parties that have been deregistered will know their fate. And the third point I want to make is that some of the political parties that went to court first on the basis of the fact that the commission does not have the power to monitor their activities, to ask them whether you still have an office in the Federal Capital Territory, whether your membership, the National Executive Committee still represents 2/3 of all the states of the Federation. That was their initial grounds. Later, apparently they amended their writ to include some other things. But the fact of the matter is that, one, none of the political parties that has been deregistered is claiming that it has structures in accordance with Section 225AA of the Constitution. And secondly, none of them has claimed that it met the constitutional threshold in terms of having won a certain number of seats in the state or National Assembly, or having met some other constitutional requirements in Section 225B and C. They have not claimed that. What they are saying, in effect, is that allow us to exist, give us time to win futuristic elections, and then you can use that to judge us. And we are saying, no, the Constitution says that if a political party fails to win, we can deregister. And if a political party no longer maintains its structures in accordance with is deed of the registration in section 222 of the Constitution that we can register.
So it's an either or?
Yes.
It is not and?
No, if you no longer have an office in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in accordance with what you claim you are going to do or what you claim you are going to have during your registration, we will deregister you. There's no doubt about that. If you fail one, we can deregister you. And they know. So their gross is not that they met all these things. Their gross in their originating process is that conclusive and democratic elections have not been conducted, and that if the elections were not rigged in 2019, they will have won seats. And therefore, that the commission should wait and allow local government elections in states to be concluded and conducted before we can talk of deregistering them. That's their case. They don't have any other matter. Well,
you can always clarify if truly that is what you are presenting before the court. But I would like you to respond to Architect Inyaya Talk's definition of what a political party should be, and whether a lot of political parties, especially the ones you represent in IPAC, fulfill the conditions, the terms and conditions of political parties.
Yes, of course. Members of the council are in strict compliance with the provisions as laid down by INEC. They have offices in this FCT. They have a national headquarters. They complied. Some time ago, INEC conducted a verification exercise. Most of the members participated in such exercise. Okay, Festus Keyamo, he's a lawyer. He understands very well that...
My name is not Festus Keyamo. My name is Festus Okoye.
Festus Okoye understands very well that this matter is currently in court. Okay, so now he mentioned Labour Party and another party. Okay, who are yes. This matter was instituted last year. It's not after the deregistration. It was instituted long before the deregistration. So these parties were plaintiffs to the suit.
Before the deregistration, when INEC started the audit of political parties, yes. Isn't that correct?
Before the deregistration occurred.
I'm saying this suit started when
Thank you very much. Last year, yes, you're right.
The audit of political parties.
You're right, yes.
Did political parties question the power of INEC to carry out an audit on them?
IPAC didn't question. IPAC didn't question the power of the commission to carry out the audits, and most members complied. Most members complied with that. Okay, so it's important that I bring to notice that many political parties, about 23 of them were registered in 2018. About 23 of them. These political parties that were deregistered, most of them are in the deregistered list, and they have not even concluded the full cycle of election. United Patriots, which is my party, we got our certificate in 2018, August. Okay, when you register political parties, you must give them the opportunity to grow. You can't deregister political parties and within a year and a half, you deregister them. Then it will shock you now that INEC has about 100 political parties to enroll, to register. So it doesn't make sense.
Do you think that there should be a threshold for the number of political
parties? The Constitution guarantees freedom of association, so we can't restrict the space.
Indeed. But
we can't restrict this. We have countries with lesser population and more political parties.
Mr. Chukwudi, let me land.
Yes, please.
What I'm saying is, do you think that there should be conditions, say, for political parties to participate in, say, presidential elections or governorship elections and things of the sort? Do you think that there should be those kinds of conditions? Reason being that even just the ballot paper for our presidential election looked a little unwieldy last time. For a number of people, having 90-something political parties on a ballot paper, is a little unbecoming. You don't think so?
I do not think so. The ballot paper you're referring to, INEC will print ballot papers based on the total number of accredited voters, not the total number of political parties. Even if we have 3 political parties in Nigeria and we have 100 million voters, INEC will print 1 million.
No, I'm talking about the size.
The size, really, we have countries that theirs is like a newspaper you have to flip through. So it's a matter of having the competence to run an organization. That it boils down to that.
It makes sense to you, and you think it'll be nice on the voters, or it will be fair on the voters.
There's no problem. The Constitution allows that. The Constitution, that is the freedom we enjoy.
Okay.
And we must protect the freedom, the Constitution, that we must observe the provisions of the Constitution.
Okay, let us move to another matter now, which is the decision of the Supreme Court today, which is going to be awaited. People are assuming that there's going to be a review today, at least it will seem that's what the Supreme Court has undertaken to do. And a number of people have looked at INEC in recent times over the decision of the Supreme Court on Bayelsa and Imo. Yes. INEC has not come out with a reaction on these two matters. Is there a reason for that?
No. It's not true. For instance, in relation to the two decisions, it's not true that we have not come out with a reaction. You know, the Independent National Electoral Commission is a creation of the Constitution and the law. And we have a duty, a constitutional duty, to give effect to decisions, judgments, and orders of superior courts of record. Now, in relation to Bayelsa, the Commission gave effect to the judgment of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court made two fundamental orders. One, that the nomination of the deputy governorship candidate of the APC was vitiated by his non-qualification. And that secondly, that fact of vitiation makes it impossible for the political party to have even fielded candidates for the election. So the implication, as far as the Commission was concerned, was that if the a candidate was not qualified in the first place to be on the ballot, whatever votes the candidate or the party secured during the election were wasted votes. And it was on the basis of that we proceeded to remove all the wasted votes from the ballot, and then recalibrated and recalculated the votes and made a declaration. So we came out with
the issue is this. For a number of people, they say that, you know, the processes at INEC too needs to be questioned. So, for instance, how is it possible that somebody who had multiple names on certificates, those certificates were admitted by INEC?
Oh, okay. Look. I think that one of the things we need to pay attention to relates to the provisions of the law and the Constitution and the processes of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Section 31 subsection 1 of the Electoral Act makes it clear that any political party that wants to nominate candidates for an election must file the list of its candidates with the Independent National Electoral Commission. And the same Section 31 obligates the Commission to, within a period of 7 days after the receipt of the nominations, to publish the affidavit and the particulars and all documents submitted by each political party and their candidates in the constituency where the candidate intends to run the election. And he also says that any person, any individual that has any reason to believe that any of the credentials, any of the documents submitted by the candidate is false, can approach either the Federal High Court or the High Court of the state or the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, seeking for a declaration that the documents submitted are false. And it further says in Section 31, subsection 6, that if the court comes to the conclusion that those documents are false, that the court will make an order disqualifying the candidate. And that's exactly what happened in this case. So this particular function and this particular duty and power has been given to any individual to question. It is not reserved for the Independent National Electoral Commission.
We have 1 more minute to go, and I want you to quickly react to this Imo judgment, which a number of people have also blamed INEC for. They believe that INEC ought to have declared inconclusive elections in Imo based on the fact that the results of 388 polling units were not included. How do you react to that?
Well, you know, Section 68 and Section 75 of the Electoral Act gives the power of making a declaration and a return to the returning officer appointed by the Independent National Electoral Commission. And the moment the returning officer makes a declaration and a return, even the INEC chairman does not have the right or power to overturn such a return.
Do you have a right to question how the decision was reached, if you think that it was questionable?
As of today, by the provisions of Section 68 and 75, we don't have the power to do that. It's only a court of law that has the power to look into that.
Well, gentlemen, we have to thank you both for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Mr. Festus Okoye is a National Commissioner, Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee at INEC, and Barrister Eziobika Chukwudi is a National Legal Advisor of IPAC. Gentlemen, thank you again for coming on Sunrise Today this morning.
Thank you so much.
The program continues shortly. Please stay with us.